another tutorial video. Today's one is in conjunction with Tonic Craft Kit number 74, which is called Boots and Bouquets, and it has this fantastic image in there that has a coordinating die to go with it, and all of the stamps in the stamp set have coordinating dies, so I want to use these to show you exactly how you can line up your dies over the top of your stamped image to get them to be cut out perfectly, or how to have a bunch of die cuts already cut and be able to stamp multiples of them absolutely perfectly without having to line it up every single time. So it's going to be kind of showing you one way and then showing you an alternative way of how to get your stamped images and dies to be absolutely perfectly lined up. And this month's kit has got this die set, the stamp set, a selection of 10 Nouveau alcohol pens for colouring in your image, and they work perfectly for colouring it in. It's also got a lovely selection of cardstocks, whether they are A4 sheets or a 6x6 pad. Beautiful selection of colour tones, and you're also getting an expanding mousse, a stone drop and a packet of foam pads as well. So you've got a really lovely selection of goodies in this month's craft kit, but I'm going to be focusing on just the dies and the stamps from the kit to be able to show you this. But obviously there are tons of stamp clubs that came before this that have coordinating dies and stamps to work together, and so this tutorial can be applied to those as well. It doesn't just have to be for this specific kit. You can just apply this to any stamps and dies that coordinate, that you want to get them to be cut out absolutely perfectly. So there's kind of two ways round to do this. You can either stamp first or die cut first, depending on whether or like how many you're going to be cutting and stamping. If you just want to cut out one image in a couple of sentiments, then I would recommend stamp first. But if you're doing batch making, or you just want a bunch of the little sentiments stamped and cut out for your stash, I would recommend the die cutting first, then stamping. So I'm going to show you stamping first, and there are kind of two ways of doing this. If you're confident with lining it up, you can just line it up using the die because you can see the whole image through it. But if you're not, you can use the negatives of a previous die cut to line up around the image, and then you can nestle the die back into that. So I'm going to just stamp out a couple of these. It doesn't matter if these aren't perfect because, you know, it's just for a demonstration, but I will try and get them to be a good stamped image. So I'm just going to stamp the boot and a couple of sentiments, and I might not have left enough space, so the boot might not have quite enough space at the top when we cut it out, but you'll get what I mean anyway. So I can just press this down to get our stamped images. They did come out quite good, so that's alright. So the first way I'll show you with the boot, because that's a really easy image to do this with and an easy image for you to see as well. So you can stamp your image, and then you can just take your die, line it up around the edge of it, take a couple of little pieces of tape to secure it into position, and if I zoom you in a little bit closer, you can just eyeball the white space around it. So because the way Tonic have designed their dies, you can see the whole image, so you can actually line up every single little area around it to get that perfect little white border between your stamped image and the edge of the metal there, and then you can line this up. Oh, I moved it. You can line that up and tape that into position. Or if you're not as confident doing that, you can take a negative from an already die cut piece, snip around it so it fits into position, line this up around your stamped image so you can actually see exactly where the white is. Rather than just seeing the white between the stamped line and the metal of the die, you can actually see exactly how this will cut out. And then you can tape that into position with a little bit of low tack tape. And then once that is secured, you can take the same die, which is this one, and you can just recess that back into the channel of that die cut, and it's held firmly into position, and you can actually see it then lines up perfectly with the metal of the die as well. And then you can tape that into position, and then we can die cut that out as well. So I'll just get the Tangerine and we can die cut those out to show you those two ways of stamping first and then die cutting. So now we have got our perfect stamped and die cut boot image with a perfect border all the way around the edge, ready to colour in. And then we also have our perfectly die cut out stamped sentiment by using that extra die cut to line it up absolutely perfectly. But if you want to cut a ton of these, as I said before, for like batch making or you know, just so you have a ton of little sentiments in your stash ready, you're going to want to have already die cut some extra pieces of card. So let's just get another piece of white card, and we can cut out another boot, and I might as well just cut out this sentiment again as well to show you. And in this case, you would, you know, cut as many of these as you want to stamp at this point in time. I'm just going to do a few of them to show you, but you can cut as many of these as you want to be able to stamp. Then we can move our machine out of the way. All of the die cutting will be done at this point. Then we can bring in our stamping platform, which you can tell I've already been doing this technique with because there's already a boot stamped in there. So I like to always have a piece of scrap paper in the bottom of whatever stamping platform that I'm using. So I'll flip that over and we can use the other side of it to show you this again. And basically what you want to do is take your stamps again. So mine are still dirty, but we are just working on to scrap at the moment, so it doesn't particularly matter if I get any sort of double images. And then I've already got some die cut, so I want to make sure I pick the same sentiments to the ones that I have die cut already. So let's go with that one that we just did. I think I've got this one cut as well that I stamped out. Yeah, that is that one. And then I've also got, which one is that? I think that's the thank you one. So I'll stamp that one as well. I think that's the right one that matches with that. So I'll stamp all of these out. So basically you're just going to take any sentiments or image that you want to stamp and you know, have perfectly die cut out. Pick them up on the door of whatever stamping platform you're using, and then just ink them up. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're just using this as a guide. And then you can stamp them down into position. I can stamp that a little bit better than that. So you've got that as like your rough sort of guide of where your images are. Now don't move these and don't move this piece of paper. And then the next step is to take the aperture from your die cut. So we've got our boot die cut and we've got our aperture piece that we cut it out of. So you just need one of these for your project, and you do want to make sure it's not interfering with any of your other stamped images that you're going to want to recess the die cuts into. So we can just place that around the stamped image that we just stamped to get our placement in sort of the right position. And then this is where the die tape actually comes in really handy, this Craft Perfect die tape. So if you got this in, I think it was last month's kit, you can use that for this purpose as well. You could just make sure that that is perfectly aligned around your stamped image, and then you can tape this down, making sure it's nicely secured, and also making sure your magnets are still holding that scrap piece of paper down in the same position. And then we can also do this for these other pieces as well. So we have got the little friendship one here that we were just using to help us cut out the previous stamped sentiment that we just did. So we can use that aperture and line it up around our sort of practice stamped image just there. Make sure that is securely in position with a few different pieces of tape. Then we've also got the aperture here for the Stay Strong. So we can take that, and wrong way up, place that into position and tape that down as well. So we're lining up around this too. And then just to show you, because you can do as many as you want at the same time, I'll do the third one as well, because, you know, if you're lining all of this up, you might as well use your whole kind of platform. You could have added the rest of the sentiments in there as well and get this entire stamp set done in one go, or you could just do your 6 sentiments as well. Whatever way you want to do it will work fine for this, however many you want to do at the same time. And you don't even have to replace all of the die cuts in. If you wanted a certain number of the boots, but you wanted plenty more of the sentiments than the boots for whatever projects you're doing, you don't have to put the boot back in. You can leave all of this ready here, but you don't have to put the boot die cut back in there. You can just then go with the sentiments as well, which is nice. So we can put a nice lot of tape on this as well to hold it into position. And there we have our basis for this. Now, the only thing about this is, every time you move your stamps off of here or you wiggle the scrap paper, you're going to have to redo this all over again. But bearing in mind how much time it's going to take you with lining up the stamp perfectly on your die cut, I think it's definitely worth it. So for example, you might think, oh, I can just save this with my kit and then I'll be able to use it again, but the trouble is you probably won't be able to exactly get the stamps in the same position. If you are good at putting that stamp directly back over a stamped image and then picking it up with the door, you can definitely do that as well. So you could have a go at doing that too. I just find I can never perfectly get it lined up, so I'd rather just redo the whole thing again. But now we have this done, we can use this hundreds of times if we want to. All you have to do, the limiting factor is just the number of pieces that you have die cut out. So basically you're just going to take your die cuts, fit them back in like puzzle pieces, and then we're going to be able to stamp this, and in one stamping, without having to do any lining up at all, we're going to have stamped 3 sentiments and a boot. So it's so simple to do, and it just saves so much time when you're making tons of the same thing, or if you're just trying to stock up on bits and pieces to have on your desk for your card making as well. So we can just ink that up, place that over the top, stamp it down, and then one of them picked up on the stamp, but we're going to have perfectly stamped sentiments. If you can't quite get them out of there without budging anything, your craft pick is perfect for this. You can just poke under the corner of it, and then you've got that perfectly lined up die cut and stamped sentiment. And then you've also got this one here as well, and then you've also got the boot here too. So you've got a perfect boot. But now say we've done enough of the boots and we don't want any more boots stamped and die cut out, but we still want some more of our sentiments. We can replace another thank you one in there, another friendship one in there, and do I have another one of the others? Yes, another stay strong one as well. And then we can just ink up the sentiment portions of the stamps that are on the lid of our stamping platform. And then we can bring that over, press them down, and then get the perfect stamped images on all of these again. So now we've got 2 of each of those sentiments, and again you can use your craft pick to pick them out of there as well, so you're not budging anything. And then maybe you just want another thank you one and another friendship one, but you don't want another one of the stay strong ones. Then you can just put those 2 die cuts back in and just ink up those 2 areas as well. So however many things you plan this for, you don't have to stamp all of them all of the time, which is nice. So you can just go through and stamp double the amount of thank yous, because maybe you make a ton of thank you cards but not as many for the other sentiments in this stash, but you'll get them absolutely perfect every time. And how quick and easy was that compared to how long it took us to line up the die just around the stamped image, or use our extra little piece to then line up the die around the image. So much quicker if you want lots of them to have already die cut all of your pieces and create something like this to replace them back in and then stamp a bunch of them. So I really hope that you found this tutorial helpful. I just find this is such a good technique to know for whatever kind of stamps and dies that you have, whether it is something from a Tonic kit, whether it is possibly even a magazine freebie. You know, sometimes you might get a die that coordinates with a stamp. Whatever it is, especially for like Christmas cards and thank you cards and things like that, it just saves so much time to know this kind of tip of how to get them to cut out absolutely perfectly and do it so quickly and create so many of them as well. So I really hope you found this tip useful. I know a few of you have been waiting on this because I'd asked in a stamp club video if you'd be interested in this, and everybody said, well, a couple of people said yes. So hopefully that this was helpful, and those of you who didn't even see that video, hopefully to you it was helpful as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!